Recommendations. Blacks must first establish cultural standards of acceptable social behavior and jettison behavior patterns that render them economically non competitive. Blacks must openly acknowledge that certain behavior is detrimental to the race and must be changed. They can no longer excuse destructive behavior by hiding within the frail walls of civil rights issues or charging it to poverty politics or the legacies of slavery. Blacks should strive to participate more equitably and fully in all aspects of American society. To do so, they must exercise greater responsibility in the development and control of their communities. They must sever the dependence of they must sever the dependence upon white communities for solutions to their problems. America is a competitive society, and the chances of it being changed simply to accommodate non competitive blacks are remote. Blacks must acquire enough wealth and political power to change their conditions. The realization of these goals will require leadership that is trained, experienced, devoted, visionary, and representative of the best black minds. 3. Black institutions, churches, schools, families, and other social organizations must assert themselves regarding the problems facing black America. They must establish and promote They must establish and promote codes of conduct to protect their communities from black antisocial and dysfunctional behaviors. These foundation institutions should cooperatively use a variety of social tools to persuade members of the black race to comply with certain behavioral standards. Social tools, including sanctions, rewards, and punishments, must not only encourage respect and unity for the group, but should also instill trepidation in potential violators. Black institutions must define and teach those roles, values, and beliefs, but also house enforcement powers. Neither law enforcement, politicians, nor the military can bring about community togetherness. The lessons of the civil strife in Somalia, Haiti, and Bosnia should soon make this point clear. Only those who live in the community can make it a safe, positive, and enjoyable place to live. Strategy 6. Building a strong sense of community. Since for many years blacks lacked sufficient power to protect themselves, their families, and their communities, they were unable to develop a strong sense of community. However, their sense of community and peoplehood was stronger prior to the 1954 Supreme Court desegregation decision than it is today. Prior to this decision, segregation forced blacks to be interdependent and more unified. They were concerned about the welfare of others in their group. They valued and respected black role models and aspired to emulate them. They imposed sanctions and consequences upon members who caused disruptions. For instance, elders were more willing to admonish and help teach neighborhood children right from wrong. Analysis. The minority and immigrant labels, when applied to blacks, are not only misleading but injurious. because they mask the unique history and status of black Americans. Blacks were never immigrants by definition, nor in terms of the treatment that has been accorded them. Blacks were never immigrants by definition, nor in terms of the treatment that has been accorded them. And and they have systematically been kept in a minority status to prevent them from acquiring power and wealth. Even when they were the majority in Louisiana, Mississippi, Georgia, Alabama, and South Carolina, they were still powerless. And today, majority populations in large cities, they are still powerless as a group. Two, integration in its present form deters blacks from establishing and maintaining a strong sense of community togetherness and peoplehood. It engenders abandonment of the strong cultural traditions and values of black heritage. The process contains the process contains some of the same conditioning techniques employed in slavery. For instance, For instance, integration places blacks in a position of numerical weakness, subject to being monitored and controlled, rewarded, or punished by whites. It forces blacks to be to loyal to and identify with the dominant white society. Some blacks, perhaps out of a lack of racial pride or naivete, do not see the negative results of integration in its present form and continue to pursue it regardless of how often they are rejected or exploited. 3. Integration gives the illusion that a racial or ethnic group's numerical size is unimportant. Nothing could be further from the truth. Democratic societies operate on the basic principle that the majority wins and unity is power. In competitive group politics and economics, the integrating group is disabled, especially when it doesn't stick together. By fragmenting its members, they become permanent losers. Integration works only when blacks stay in their assigned, subordinate, powerless, scattered positions. Integration works only when blacks stay in their assigned, subordinate, powerless, scattered positions. Whites generally support integration as long as it doesn't increase the presence of blacks beyond 5 to 8%. When that happens, they generally feel that their positions, personal security, prestige, and wealth are threatened. 5. A strong sense of community springs from group power. Institutions must be constructed within black communities to attract and attain and retain wealth, information, and power. Institutional power is more potent and lasting than individual power. For instance, white wealth and political power is manifested through a wide variety of organizations and institutions. These entities are financed and directed by governments and corporate leaders who protect and enhance the privileged social position of their race. Recommendations. 1. Blacks must cease using the term minority and resist any other categorical ambiguous terms that equates them with other racial, ethnic, gender, or class groups. Centuries of statutory enslavement, exploitation, and subordination have imposed unique problems and conditions upon blacks. By using blacks as a model for redressing grievances, any group that perceives itself as aggrieved gets the gets the thrill without the bill. In other words, they get the advantages of being perceived as victims without having endured the historical sufferings of blacks, and they gain greater acceptance within mainstream society by being self sufficient and conservative. Two, all black self empowerment activities must contribute to building a strong sense of peoplehood and commitment to the acculturation principle of taking care of oneself, one's family, and one's race. A true sense of peoplehood is not the same as the rhetoric of brotherhood and sisterhood. Like whites, blacks will have differences of opinion and interracial and intra-racial differences and disagreements. But blacks' lives are interconnected by virtue of their color. So blacks must be committed to moving towards mutually beneficial goals. This principle extends into international business and dealings with African and Caribbean nations. Black Americans and Black Africans should first learn to deal with Black nations to which they have natural links before dealing with white colonialists. Power will increase in direct proportion to the degree of unity among black people. Okay. Three, blacks should develop a sense of community and togetherness patterned after white society. For centuries, white society has been solidly committed to European ethnic culture and attitudes about race and power. Their strong sense of peoplehood has permitted them to go to war with other members of their community, yet regroup and fight common enemies. Whites' sense of community helps them to prioritize issues and people and to decide how to best employ their wealth and power for the good of their group. Blacks four. Blacks must recapture this sense of national black community that the sense of national black community that they had before the 1960s civil rights protest period. Black cooperation and unity are essential tools for building empowerment, especially within the critically short time frame that remains. There will be little time for petty power struggles during the next decade. A Washington based black think tank, the Harvest Institute, is currently being formed to provide some guidance in this area. Blacks must recapture the nation's conscience by building and operating a Black Holocaust and Black History Museum in the nation's capital. It should be designed to convey the psychological, socioeconomic, and political impact of slavery and Jim Crow. Considering the contributions that blacks made to America and modern civilization, such a museum should stand as an equal to this nation's most revered museums and monuments. Moreover, It would elevate the black historical role from a footnote to the major text. It should submerge visitors in the dreadfulness of the black American experience and the amazing productivity of a people under siege. 6. Black Americans must alter the way they see themselves economically, socially, and politically if they are to change the way others see them. Black history must be taught in totality and in a new context. It must emphasize the outstanding productivity and the contributions blacks have made to capitalism, the Industrial Revolution, and American society in general. Black history ought not to be limited to the contributions of a few blacks. Instead, it should demonstrate blacks' massive labor and wealth productivity. It should focus on how they produced wealth, food, clothing, and shelter for the generations of non-blacks around the world. The history ought to show the uniqueness and enduring strength of the black culture that gave America its only true art forms: black music, dance, art, and language. A black Holocaust, a black Holocaust and history museum would provide a proper context for long or a black Holocaust and history museum would provide a proper context for long overdue recognition of America's original labor class. 7. New black leadership must establish a national vision and articulate an acceptable code of conduct. Behavior that is injurious to other black persons and property must be strictly prohibited. Though America is a nation of laws, centuries of imposed criminality have rendered some black communities nearly uninhabitable. Blacks must retrieve their communities from the various outlaw elements within and around it by legal and extra legal and any other means necessary. And any other means necessary. 8. As a part of a strong sense of community and accountability mechanisms, as a part of a strong sense of community and accountability mechanism for rewarding and punishing offenders are the of the community will be needed, or accountability mechanisms for rewarding and punishing offenders of the community will be needed to bring rampant black on black crime under control. Accountability standards to be imposed by the community will have to be designed. They should include social sanctions and other punishments. 9. Blacks, in accordance with the national public policy, became an obsolete and endangered race in the 1960s. Since blacks are less acceptable, more vulnerable, and more powerless than Jews, it is important that blacks develop the capability of an organization like the B'nai B'rith Anti-Defamation League that would monitor and report all anti-black activities anywhere in the world. Such a capability would not only keep America well informed, black America would well informed, but would dissuade groups from engaging in destructive activities against blacks.